And it's JJDrones Live, coming to you live from the Volvo 70 studios. Welcome. Stormy Sky Rural Productions, 906 Coping Services. We got Dick and Steve, and we've got Kathy, and we've got Gary from Jill Bait and Tackle Outdoors. And my dad, Dave Johnson, he's in here. So thank you, everybody, for coming in. Today's going to be a little bit of a different show. It's going to be a fun show. So I hope that you all are going to enjoy this. But before we get into too much, I just want to mention that at the top of the chat, when you all came in, there was a posting there for Dan, the droning veteran. He's got a video that is exclusively only available right now on my website, JJDrones 360. So if you go on to JJDrones 360, you're going to see that sitting there waiting for you to watch. Hang on, I've got way too much stuff going on. Okay, so if you go to JJDrones360.com, you will be able to watch Dan, the Droning Veterans video. It is sitting there waiting for you to see. And if this would just show, there we go. Jason at JJDrones360.com is where you can email me if you would like to have one of your videos previewed on the website. And I've already got one for this week, as I just mentioned, for Dan, and then I've got one set up for next week for Paul, or not Paul. Paul was just calling me for Ted at Off the Hook Outdoors. So if you want to see anything JJ Drones related, just go to JJDrones360.com. That is where you can see our videos, my social links, all sorts of information about the channel. So you can just go right there. And then all of my Amazon links are sitting there, jjdrones.com/Amazon1. And if you would like to contribute to the channel, paypal.me/JJDrones, or if you're in PayPal already, at JJDrones. And then my friend Ted, who's going to have a video on the website next week, he's got bait boxes for sale. And those are $30 for no color preference, $35 if you want a specific color, and that's going to be plus shipping. And you can get a hold of him, Ted Polanowski Jr. at gmail.com. And then if you are interested in doing the rubber duck races, email Ted or myself. They are going to be $15 per duck. But I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here today because we have too much going on with the show today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our special guests. One here, well, both of them you are very familiar with. We have Mr. Karl Marx, who is right there, right next to me here on the screen. And then we have Jeff Marx, who I just have to unmute. So, Jeff, are you there?
I am here.
And Karl?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. So everybody can hear everybody, and everybody can, well, I can see Karl. I can't see Jeff, but
that's probably a good thing.
Yes. And we've got Scott Shelby in the house. Scott, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming into the show. And we have Doc Talk with Z. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. And then we've got Paul. He's saying that I have audio problems. I am echoing. So let me go ahead and fix that. Okay, audio. I shouldn't be echoing because I've got echo cancellation on. All right. Will somebody tell me if that fixed the problem?
I heard you fine before.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Oh, turn down the collar. Okay. All right. So that's turning you up. Okay. How's that? Hey, Ted, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Ted's going to be over at the Steelers game today, and he's going to be giving us updates from the men's room.
Thought that was my job.
Yeah, well, Okay, I think I know what I need to do here. I need to turn down the computer. Okay, Paul says I'm peaking. So 16-0 Steelers, and he just left the men's room. So thank you. Okay, so we're echoing again. We will get this thing figured out. Just technical difficulties. Okay, now Stormy Sky can barely hear me. So let's do this. All right, Jeff, say something.
Yes, I'm here. You're extremely loud in my ear.
Okay, sounds peaking, don't hear echo. Okay, so we've got Stormy Sky saying that they can barely hear me now, and then we've got Paul saying sounds peaking, don't hear echo. So I'm either peaking or I can't. I don't hear echo and too loud. Okay. All right, so here is. How is that? Is that any better? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What the heck is going on? I mean, I leave the settings. Okay. Okay, so I've got perfect from Kathy, and I've got perfect from Geo Outdoors. So good. That's what I was trying for, Geo. I was trying for no over modulation. And so I could have even gone here and brought this down. All right. So if it doesn't sound, and Ted says that it sounds good to him, and then we got sounds good from Stormy Sky. So we're going to go ahead and get things started. Thank you so much, and I appreciate all of your patience with that. I just don't understand because when I put everything away, I just leave all the settings the exact same way that it's been forever. So we're just going to move on. So what we're here for is we are here for people to air some grievances. And one of okay, Ted, good luck to the Steelers. I mean, they are playing the Lions, so what can I say about that? Yes, Gremlins, Stormy Sky. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and let you start, Jeff, on what you want to talk about today, because I'm gonna still work over here in the background.
Okay. My thing is, I have seen where they are wanting to turn 18-year-old kids out in trucks.
Yeah, that's I mean they're already driving truck.
But they're not crossing state lines. They still need some kind of supervised work.
Okay.
An 18-year-old kid can't be put into adult situations and be expected to handle them.
Carl, you want to chime in on that one?
Okay. So, right, like how you said, yeah, there is 18-year-olds in trucks. I got my CDL when I was 18. So I think it can almost go both ways. Where there's not a lot of 18-year-olds that could handle crossing state lines. Um, Especially if you get like a southern driver coming up here to the Midwest in January or out in Denver in the mountains and stuff like that. So to get acclimated with that stuff, that's going to be tough. Um, I think it really should just be kept intrastate, um, or maybe some sort of maturity test of some sort to see if they qualify for a task like that. You know, going coast to coast in situations they've never been in. Even my experience. I mean, I got a lot of experience, but I am limited to some things where that. I mean, I've never been to Denver in the snow and stuff like that. So even with my experience, I think that would be challenging, let alone an 18-year-old from Florida.
Right. So you're talking. I bring up this as a situation for our 18-year-olds and Geo Outdoors. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you started driving a 379 Pete at 17 years old, but back then you didn't have the distractions that we have today out on the road. They're out, using their phones while they're texting and driving. They're watching YouTube videos. They're doing whatever they're going to do while they're driving the trucks. And I mean, distracted driving is a problem for all ages, not just teenagers. But I give the situation where these guys are only going to get they're only required to get 120 hours of training. Okay. So if you factor that in, 120 hours of training is only basically 11 days, right? So if you do 11 days of training, and they're not going to be getting trained by somebody like me, they're going to be getting trained at Swift. They're going to be getting trained at Schneider. They're going to be getting trained at Werner. Some of these guys that train at these mega carriers have 6 months experience, and then they go out and they say, you know what, you're good on your own. And the other thing is with Schneider, or not Schneider, but with Werner, those trainers, they start putting the drivers in the driver's seat on their own, first, second day, right? So these kids are going to be leaving. Let's say they've got their driver's license when they turn 17, and then they go out and they figure out they can make a living driving a truck at 18. So they go ahead and they get their CDL license, and then they go with the trainer and they're trained for 120 hours, and they're left on their own. And then let's just say the kid was born and raised in Miami, Florida. So that kid has never seen snow in his life, but he gets a load from Miami going up to Wisconsin, and he gets his first load up to Wisconsin in January, and then hits a blizzard. What's going to happen then? Anybody want to add any comments to that?
Yeah. The only thing I can use is personal experience. I started at 21 years old. And the first time I ever drove through snow was in your truck over there at Prime. And I didn't have a clue what I was in for when we started up Donner's Pass.
Right.
So that's 21 years old, and I have a trainer sitting in a seat right next to me. I was scared, to say the least. You put a kid in that situation, they're going to be jackknifed or spun out on the middle of the mountain, let alone, God forbid, take out 4 or 5 cars with them.
Right.
I think that they should only get CDLs to drive in their home state until they're 21. As far as that goes, I would be content with 25, but that'll never happen.
No. And Paul C says it's all about training right the first time. I worked for Swift as a trainer, and I'm thinking he says they suck at teaching the trainers to train. How would you go about doing that, Carl?
As far as what?
As far as how would you prepare the trainers to train somebody like an 18-year-old?
Man, I mean, that's a tough question, actually. I mean, they need a lot of observation. I mean, so to train a trainer to train, first of all, you need to see what experience they have. Obviously, their driving record, and I think they should the person that's going to train an 18-year-old. Well, they need to go out on all these elements to make sure that they qualify for that. I mean, I know they got like the skid pads and stuff like that, but that's really nothing. I mean, you need to go out on a snowy, icy fog, 3/4 of the mile visibility, and really test your skills. And if if you're going to be the trainer, well, then you need to have those qualifications first, and not just one test. It needs to be, maybe a season of winter time before they can actually evaluate somebody to see if they're good with that.
Right. And it really comes down to the fact the level of experience. And some of these kids are waiting to get their driver's licenses when they're 17, 18 years old, because some of the schools aren't even doing the driver's ed classes in schools anymore. I mean, obviously there are some schools that still do driver's ed training, because as part of the Wisconsin road team, I do go to driver's ed classes. But on the other hand, these kids that don't have that option, that don't have the driver's ed classes, that wait until they're 17, 18, they don't have the experience driving a car, let alone driving an 18-wheeler. You know what I mean? So to say that you're going to go ahead and let them loose to be on their own after 120 hours, it's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And also we all know there's different combinations that could make the situation even worse. Tank, livestock. I mean, that's stuff I've never dealt with.
Right.
You throw in the double trailers. I mean, that stuff it can be very trying in the winter time, because you just never know what's around that curve. Road condition wise. But I can't speak for every state, but even when they take their CDL test, I know like Wisconsin, Illinois, they had like an A/B test, where an A test was under the hood, everything inside the cab, and everything around the vehicle. And then a B test was an in-cab inspection and everything under the hood and one side of the vehicle and the back.
Right.
Well, two sides. But then there was a C also, where it was in cab, nothing under the hood, and just one side of the vehicle. But they don't tell you what you're going to take, but you should be prepared for all three. But when we all got our CDL, it was in cab, everything around, up and down. Yep. And now there's so many shortcuts. It's like, well, why aren't you testing this knowledge of what we're required to know? So that's pretty concerning, even for anybody our age, let alone an 18-year-old. When they're not getting tested under the hood, they're probably not going to open up that thing ever to see, because they don't know what it is. They're like, oh, I'm not tested on this.
Right. Now, Paul says that there should be 5 minimum years of over the road in all states, all conditions, plus some kind of leadership training. And I completely agree with that. But you brought up, Carl, an 18-year-old pulling livestock. Jeff, how would you feel about that? Seeing as how you've hauled lost livestock for years now.
Well, first of all, I would go to the DMV, hand in my license, and throw the truck keys to them. Second of all, I'm going to pack my bags and move to Canada or Mexico, whichever's closest. Because the number one accident in hauling livestock is overturning. It does not matter speed, wind, whatever. That's the biggest reason for a cow truck to wreck.
Okay, can you explain why?
Because you have two levels of live moving animals. And yes, there are gates in there to keep them from going the length of the trailer. But you hang a curve at 65 miles an hour, and the sign says you can do 65 miles an hour. You have all that extra force on the top going to one side or the other, causing it the load to shift, and well, there you are on your side.
Okay. Now this is a really good example, Jeff and Carl, and I'm going to ask you both to comment on it because this is a little bit ridiculous. And Dad, he couldn't have been 20 years old. He would have had to have been 22 at the very minimum because we don't have any of these 18-year-olds on the road yet. But here's the situation. He saw a prime driver pulled over between Waseda and Kennard the other day. I stopped and asked if he needed a hand. He said he ran out of hours and didn't know if he could go further. Whichever one of you want to jump in quick on this one.
It sounded like his trainer failed. I mean, knowing hours of service is a big part of your job. You don't know hours of service, how are you going to make it past scale houses and be legal and be safe about it?
Right. Carl?
Yeah, I agree. He pretty much took the words out of my mouth. It's like that should be the first thing that's taught, to know how far you can go, trip planning, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, Jeff said it perfectly.
Paul says, I got my Class B when I was 18 here in California. It was just smaller tests than Class A1. I just had to take all my tests a couple of years ago, and now they're asking you to remember all kinds of parts. I mean, that's California. I'm going to mention one more thing on that prime driver, and the number one thing is that Jeff said is that trainer failed. The fact that he was willing to let that driver go, because Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but those trainees don't leave that trainer's truck until the trainer's willing to sign off on them.
That is correct. The first 2 days I was in your truck, you pounded hours of service into my head. And even then, if you were not comfortable with me as a driver, my capabilities, or anything of that nature, you did not sign off on me.
Right, because not only is it dangerous for the public, but it's dangerous for you, right?
Yes.
So the best thing that you can do is prepare these people for being out there on their own. All that fluff and stuff, welcome in. Appreciate you being here. And then Deer Corner, welcome in. That kind of segues perfectly, though, into my biggest gripe, and that's the misconception of the driver shortage. And you can go anywhere around this country and talk to any driver, and I'm just going to want to do a quick poll between the three of us. Who thinks there's a driver shortage?
I don't.
Nope.
I was at Salt Lake City yesterday, and there was, the other day, and there was 150 trucks piled into one Flying J, and every one of them sitting there empty waiting for a load.
right? What about you, Carl?
I don't think there is one. Um, you know, me being a fan of labor and stuff, though, but I think a lot of the reason, if there were to be a shortage, it's because of the low pay or the respect or maybe working conditions, the demands of the job, the training programs, and just all the regulations that are out there that we are held to. Um, so sure, do a lot of people want to go through that stuff? No. Um, but as far as a shortage, I would say no. I don't think there is one. I was reading an article. I think they were saying roughly right now we're about 80,000 drivers short.
That's the number they keep out putting out there. And if you throw 80,000 more drivers out there on the road, where are we going to park?
Right.
I mean, at this point, if you try and find a parking spot anytime before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to find one.
Right.
And that's because there's such a glut of drivers. I mean, there's not really a driver shortage. Not only is there not a driver shortage, but they could fix a lot of problems by upping the freight rates, because a lot of these drivers out there are trying to survive on the freight rates that were there when diesel was $2 to $3 a gallon, right? And they can't continue to do that. They just can't.
Right. Yeah, and then I believe the ATA was saying an estimate by 2030 it was double, 160,000 short, which I don't really want to look that far ahead, but I think it's just another scare for something that they're trying to make an excuse for or distraction. But no, I don't think there's a shortage.
Deer Corner says that I hauled grain and cattle at 16 off the farm. Now that's going to be a completely different scenario. But he's 62 and still doesn't see any breaks to help the farmers get to the market. And there are no breaks, Deer Corner. There really isn't. And but a 16-year-old that's working on the farm is going to be somebody that's 18-year-old that's been working in the city all the time. But we do have to have a certain level of conformity to the CDL, and that's why the CDL came to fruition to begin with. Isn't that right, Carl?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I mean, in order for there to be some uniformity, we have to have that. But I think there's still an exemption for younger drivers who work on a farm, as long as they're running the farm equipment on their property.
Wisconsin had, like we have A, B, C, D, M, and then like Illinois has just an A. If you have all that, and you have a Class A CDL, you just have an A on your license. But the farm and stuff, I believe it was like example A, B, C, D, M for motorcycle, F for farm. But I've never looked into that much. I've seen it in manuals.
Can I touch in on this, Jason?
Yes, sir.
In the state of Tennessee, if you work on a farm, I'm looking at it right now, as long as you are on the insurance and you go no more than 150 miles and do not cross state lines, you can be 16 years old and drive a commercial motor vehicle that is farm use only.
So it's almost like the exemption for short haul driving.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to stay 150 miles in range of your farm, and you cannot cross state lines.
Now that makes sense to me, Carl.
Yeah, that I remember reading something like that too. Same thing up here. I said I'm not really knowledgeable, and just because I didn't live on a farm.
Right. According Kathy says a young driver should need to be initiated of all seasons of driving, snow, rain, etc. How would the logistics of training in all conditions be accomplished? Well, the only way that you can actually do it real time is by having him in the truck for a year. And you know what? I'm okay with that. If they want to be 18 and they want to be trained for an entire year, I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I would too.
I would be more than comfortable with that.
It's the 120 hours that really gets me.
Right.
Dan says, I would say more of a truck stop or parking areas have a shortage than a driver shortage. That completely makes sense to me. And then the way that they get around it right now, Kathy, is some of these big carriers like Schneider, they have the big truck simulators. And what they do is they put them in the simulator and say, okay, this is going to simulate driving in snow, and this is going to be simulate driving in rain. And then you go on the skid pad and you do skid pad training, that kind of a thing. But that doesn't give you real world experience, because not every snowstorm is different. Not every rainstorm is different. You have to go through all of the steps. So I would say if they were willing to do a year-long program where these 18 and 19-year-olds ran with the trainer for an entire year, and then the trainer was willing to sign off on it, not only that they learned everything that they did, but if that younger child, because that's what we're calling them till they're 26, you get to be on your parents' health insurance, so they're children still. These 18 and 19-year-old children that are going to be out there driving a truck, if they get into a serious accident, that falls back on the trainer, because those trainers have to have the responsibility that they're the ones teaching these kids how to drive. And then I think that I would be okay with that.
Jason, if you'll remember when I went in to do my simulator test at Prime,
Yes.
he was actually trying to cause me to wreck the truck, and I kept it upright when in all actuality, if he would have done some of the stuff would have happened that he threw at me on that simulator, the truck would have been a total loss and I'd have probably been dead.
Probably. And that's because, what did we call it back then, Jeff?
It was a video game.
It's exactly what it is. It's just a big, expensive video game. And they get mad at you, didn't they not, when you went in there and said you wanted to play the video game?
They did. They actually almost got me fired.
And that's what we'd call it, Carl. We'd go in there and be like, can we play the video game? And they would get mad.
Yeah.
Just irate. Johnny Mac says, definitely a driver shortage here in the UK. In fact, an overall shortage of manual workers, mechanics, electricians, etc. A lack of investment for past years. And what did we talk about when we were talking about the trades, Carl?
Yeah, they're
Test. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, we were talking about, cost and, the education that went towards the trades, just it wasn't there, so that's where a big problem lies. But we can review that at another time.
Right. Hey, Paul, welcome.
Yo,
glad that you have audio.
I have audio and video. I haven't turned
video
it on in a little while, so I would bring out my my trainer. I have a belt buckle I got from them, but I don't know where it is. It's somewhere around here.
Yes, Paul used to train for Swift back in the day, and he also liked to kill buffalo.
Yes, but just know I grew up driving locally, so I learned how to drive from some dudes on the local streets here. So I knew how to drive way before I went to Swift, just FYI. It was just an easy get in back in the day.
Yes, but put him in a car, he can't drive for crap.
Yeah, sure. What are you talking about? We did a video with that.
I know we did.
Spinning tires, everything. Anyways,
my dad says that having a trainee in the truck for a year is a good idea, but money. And, the money that would be lost by these carriers if one of these 18-year-olds got into a serious wreck, I think that would trump anything that it would cost to keep them in training for a year.
You said Trump.
Yes, I did.
It would a scenario that plays back in my mind talking about this is a few years ago, the 25-year-old that lost his brakes on the mountain and did not in Colorado and did not know to take the runaway ramp.
Right, but that was more of a language barrier than it was anything else. He didn't know to take the exit or take the runaway truck ramp because he claimed that he didn't know, what those ramps were for. Even though they have these big blinking lights on there and says, truck runaway ramp on it. If he wasn't able to read it, I mean, that goes into a completely different problem with the trucking industry with, drivers that don't understand the English language. It's right there in the FMCSRs. You have to be able to read, write, and understand the English language. And that's because all of our signage all over the country is only in English.
Training.
Right, but this guy was a Cuban immigrant, and he came up here and he got a CDL through some company in Texas, and that company in Texas just let him go.
Yeah, baby, let him fly. Oh wait,
right. And simulators are good, but they are not practical whatsoever.
Yeah, those
They're
things
really not.
I think it might have been at Swift when I actually did that for like the first time ever. And it was so dumb. I'd hit the brakes. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. I hit the brakes and the truck would never stop. Like it was like keep going. I'm like, oh, I see that car coming out. I'm gonna stop now ahead of time, but it wouldn't. Like I stopped and it's like it made me like go anyway. And I'm like, I stopped and I'm doing like 25. They're doing the whole city street thing. Yeah.
Right. Now we're gonna move on to our next rant, and this is Carl's rant. So I'm gonna let him take it away. And Carl, you just let me know what visual aid you would like to have for your rant.
Okay. So the last few months, maybe even last year, I'm sure we've all know what a cash box is or a tollway is or whatever you want to call it. You got to stop and go through the iPass or pay cash on the tollway. There's been a large problem of cars, motorcycles, campers, even Class A, B vehicles that don't have an iPass and they go through the iPass lane. Or the lanes are all busy and they want to cut over to the next lane to get one car up ahead, and then it bottlenecks everything up. Or they like to go in reverse, and there's signs, Jason, saying do not reverse.
That one right there.
Yep, in red. But people do it anyways. And then obviously you got double trailers, triple trailers. I drive those a lot. Yep, that's the tollway. You're not supposed to back up, and then the trucks can't see behind them, and cars are getting impatient. So I just want to spread the word. Please don't go in reverse. Wait in line like you're supposed to. If you don't have an iPass, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a transmitter that is run off a credit card or a bank account that anytime you go through the cash box, it will take money from that said account. So if you don't have one of those and you're paying cash, these signs are visible within a mile. They got 3 of them, and it says cash lanes, iPass lanes, trucks to the right, trucks to the left. I mean, whatever. Read the signs, because there's been a big problem with delays at these toll boxes due to just negligence on people's part when you want to go through that stuff.
Now, what's this picture of?
Okay, yes, it's hard to see, but I was in line at this cash lane, and a black car went on my right, passed me on the shoulder, but there's a construction sign saying lane closed, and they have that on the shoulder there. And so he could only get so far ahead of me, so probably right in front of that Swift truck over there, and then he's going to have to get back over. So again, don't pass on the shoulder. Regardless, if there's an obstacle in front, you're not supposed to drive on the shoulder. So please don't do that.
Yeah, it just is a headache for everybody. And a lot of the states now, they don't have people at the toll plazas anymore. They just have it open road tolling.
Right. Yeah, a lot of them do. And I think that's the plan for most of them is to well, I mean, unfortunately, they're going to have to, they're going to be eliminating jobs, but yeah, I think there was talk of just making a lot of those transponders, reciprocal state by state. I know, like Illinois, you can use in Indiana and Ohio, and I think Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure how far that goes.
Yeah, but you can get a best pass, which will just encompass every single transponder unit around the country.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's called Best Pass. It's a transponder. It's just a little square thing puts in your window. It works with Easy Pass. It works with iPass. It works with the Sun Pass down in Florida or whatever it's called. It works with Oklahoma's Turnpike. So it just combines all of them into one. You just pay in one place.
Oh, okay.
But so let's go back here. Hey, Paul.
Funny thing is if everybody just talked to each other, they could have all made one pass thing and not made separate ones.
Right, but they don't want to do it that way, because if they do it that way, then they don't all get their own little piece of the pie.
Well, no,
so
they
to
would.
speak.
Every state would have they get their money, and the other states get their money. It's simple. It's math, baby.
Just want to say welcome to Raised Outdoor Arkansas, Glenn. Thank you for coming in. And then we also have Gator Jake in. Thank you so much for coming in. And Sun Pass is what is in Florida. And then Deer Corner says that's just like someone passing you doing 100 and you pull behind them at the stoplight, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound right, Carl?
It does. Actually, we were talking a few times. We talk at least 3 days out of the week.
Right, at least
for hours. And but I mean, and we'll just talk. And then also, oh man, this guy, what's he doing? We're coming to an intersection. It's a red light. He's got to get right in front of me. It's like, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know when people just got so just aggressive and just stop caring and they just don't want to follow rules.
I mean, I don't think this is a new thing though.
It's not. It just seems like it's everywhere. Before it was just like Illinois. Now it's everywhere.
Right. Well, I think Paul would disagree with you on that.
Wait, which one? Which part of that?
About the fact that people just drive like they're entitled and they have their own, like they rule the road. I mean, living in California, I mean, you deal with that every day.
It's so bad here. I think everybody's just so pissed off now that I swear it's gotten way worse since after COVID, or like even during COVID. It's like everybody it's way worse than it was before. I see road rage like a couple times a week at least. And I'm not even driving like a ton like I used to, but I still see it. And I'm like, it's freaking nuts, man. I think everybody's just pissed off. Everybody's pissed off. Everybody's in a hurry. It's just it's bad, man. When the economy takes a tank, everybody gets pissed off. Yeah. Right. Same thing with crime. Like crime goes up when the economy tanks. I mean, right. Crazy people get more crazy. Therefore, driving is trying to strangle people.
Well, and Gator Jake says Florida does toll by plate now, and even Orlando has their own pass. And I completely understand that because I think Denver was the first one to do the toll by plate, because Denver's always had that toll road around their city, and it's always been, charged by their plate. So, and everybody since the whole pandemic thing has chosen to go with a toll by plate for all of their tolls. There's just Indiana and Ohio are pretty much the only holdouts because they're not owned by the states. They're owned by a conglomerate out of Australia. So that's the difference there. We got hunting and stuff with J&J. Welcome in. Appreciate you being here. And then we have Coast to Coast Drones. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Says Gator Jake, we have that in Washington. Also cheaper if you register. They just bill you twice per month. So, and then Glenn says it's the me first self entitlement society, and I think all of us can agree with that.
Right.
Yep. No doubt. Yeah, here in the Bay, they turned everything to, obviously they took all the toll workers out, and then you have the fast pass here, and then and they'll send it to you in the mail. So if you're not signed up at all, they'll just mail it to you based on your license plate.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, this has really been this. I think that this is going well. I'm feeling like I'm getting a lot of weights off my chest here. And I think this is going to have to be something that we're going to have to do another episode of. Carl, are you going to be okay doing another episode with like this?
Sure. Yeah. A couple more.
Yeah, because doing this for an hour, and Carl and I agreed back when we first decided to do this. Doing this for an hour is not nearly enough time. We still got 10 more minutes left, so I'm going to let Paul do his own little rant, as long as you could keep it non-political.
What? No, actually. Okay, so here, I'll try to keep it fun too. Remember when we were chasing each other across the U.S.?
That was, yeah.
That's the student that I kicked out of my truck when I got back.
Right.
So lazy. And the worst part about it, when I picked him up, he only had like a few weeks left, and I can see why his other trainer dropped him, because he knew it all. Oh. Right? Where do you? Okay, so here's the question. Where do you drive when you're in a truck? Where do you drive in the lane?
In the center of the lane.
Yeah, right. Supposedly his last trainer said to drive on the right side, and I'm like, no. In school 10 years ago, I learned that. This was a long time ago. I was like, you just drive in the center. Why? So you have space on both sides, right? Then the worst thing, we came out of Salt Lake City. He drove over, like we have this big sweep. You know what I'm talking about? Sweeping turn going on to get to 80 right there off of, I don't know, whatever street that was. But there's one that you could see where the divots are, where everybody drives over the damn curve into the dirt for no reason. There's tons of space, but it was too lazy to go wide enough. He drove that over. I said, dude, you never run over curbs. You know that, right? He says, oh, no, my trainer said that one's fine.
Why is it fine when you're not supposed to do it at all?
Yes. No killing pedestrians. That's what I told him. And he argued forever. I think the only trip I did with him was out there and then back. And he was so lazy that I couldn't keep, you caught up to me. And I don't think you had a trainer or trainee at all.
Yeah, Paul had a trainee. Okay,
it was perfectly legal. Like we had to sleep the whole time. Whatever.
Paul had a trainee, and he was driving. I think you were leaving Salt Lake City when I was leaving Salinas, and we were both going to the East Coast.
Oh, that's right. We're going that way.
Okay. Yeah, and then we kind of had like a gentleman's bet that there was no way I was going to catch up to him, but his trainee was so bad that I caught up to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We won't talk about the other stuff we were doing when we were.
No. There's nothing else. There's nothing else going on. I'm gonna let Jeff make a comment on the mentality of the trainees that come out of truck driving school that think they got their CDL and now they know everything there is to know about trucking.
Well, first of all, I'm going to touch in on Paul's story there.
Okay.
The last time it's been 14 years ago since I did my driving test, but when I took mine, it was an automatic failure to hit a curve.
Yep. Oh yeah, California all day long. Still here today, I think, as far as I know.
That's a little concerning, seeing as he thought it was okay to hit the curve.
Yeah, his trainer
But,
said, well, for him, it was specifically this one coming out of Salt Lake. He's like, oh, my trainer said, don't worry about that one.
Gator Jake said, when I was a student at the University of Florida, a girl was killed standing on a corner waiting to cross when a truck hopped the curb. I mean, that's why you don't hit curbs.
Right.
That's why it's an automatic failure.
Yep. So you can go on, Jeff.
And as far as that goes, the mentality of know-it-all, the day you know everything about the trucking industry is the day you need to get out, because you're either going to kill somebody or yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Carl?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've trained hundreds of people in my years, with Class A, B, yard trucks, forklifts, and yeah, nobody knows everything. Even all of us, Jason, we talk a lot too. It's like, oh, I didn't know that, or
Right.
that. It's there's a lot of information out there that can be taught, and it can be taught in different ways. But again, it's just the big thing is safety, and when people know it all. And I've kicked a few people out of the truck. I failed them one day. It's like, no, we're not gonna be doing this.
Right. So this is going to be a topic for our next Rant Away Sunday. And I know, Jeff, you can't see it, but roundabouts.
Oh boy.
The thing that we all love to hate. Now, I am gonna bring up one thing with roundabouts. In the state of Wisconsin, for any of our people that watch in the state of Wisconsin, it is the law in the state of Wisconsin that if you come up to a roundabout and there's a semi, you have to give the right of way to the semi. Period. End of story.
Right, but they don't have that posted though.
They don't. But I'm just, PSA, public service announcement. I do one every year. You're welcome, YouTube. That's the law in the state of Wisconsin.
Right. I used to deliver that message when I was on the Wisconsin road team to all the driver's eds. Like, you have to yield to the trucks. It's not posted. Nobody tells you this. It was never on the news, nothing, but it's law.
Gator Jake says, I respect the hell out of you guys. I'm sometimes challenged by our Hyundai Santa Fe in parking lots. So I just, thank you guys all for coming on. We're going to do this again. Paul, you can be on our next Rant Away Sunday. Hopefully we don't have the audio issues in the beginning. I mean, if I wasn't so pressed for time to get to where I'm parking for the night, I would extend this another hour, because I think there's a lot of good content here that needs to be out. And I think it helps to be able to get this off of our chests, so that, it's not something that we hold on as a burden. And that's why we turn to each other. That's why we call each other, so that we can talk. And this kind of gives the general public, our thoughts on it as professional drivers. So I just want to thank you, Carl. I want to thank you, Jeff. And I want to thank you, Paul, for all coming on. And we're going to do this again soon. But Jeff, I'm going to let you go. And then Paul and Carl, I'm sure that we're going to be talking not long after we get off the show. So thank you guys for coming on.
All right. See you
later.
So before I leave and do my closing here, I just want to remind everybody that's here to go to my YouTube channel, or not to my YouTube channel. Go to my website, JJDrones360.com. Right now, there is a video up there on the featured YouTube friends videos. from Dan, the droning veteran. It's a video that he took when he was out having fun with his family, shooting guns, flying his drone around. It's an awesome video. He hasn't released it on YouTube yet. I have exclusive access to do the premiere for him. So I want you guys to go ahead and go over to my website, check out his video, give it a thumbs up and a comment and all that fun stuff, and let him know that you saw his video on the JJ Drones website. The other thing is just a reminder about the ducks, because I just kind of skimmed over it because I really wanted to get into the content. If you're interested in the rubber duck races, email me, Jason at JJDrones360.com, or email Ted, Ted Polonowski Jr. at gmail.com. They're $15 per duck. And if you enter in one duck or 5 ducks, you've got one entry into the duck races for the DJI microphone. But we're getting close. I think there's only like 3 or 4 ducks that need to be bought in order for that to be a go. So just let either one of us know if you're interested in purchasing a duck for the duck races, and then don't send any money right now. If it's a go, and we need you to send the money for it, we will email you with the information on how to do that. Again, Ted from Off the Hook Outdoors, he's a great contributor to my channel and a great friend, and he's selling bait boxes, $30 with no color preference on baits, $35 for specific colors on baits. And he now has to charge shipping because the cost of shipping is just absolutely outrageous right now. And he's losing his shirt on them. So, you know, if you're interested in buying baits to go fishing, definitely check him out, because he makes good quality baits, and you can actually watch him make them on his live streams. So let's see here. Thank you, Gator Jake, for putting that out there. But we're hitting the hour mark. I need to get down the road. I need to be in Fargo, North Dakota tonight. So I appreciate all of you for coming along for this ride with me, and we'll see you later on down the road. Bye-bye.